innovators. Welcome to the Can Innovate podcast, where we highlight Canadian innovators who are changing the game. I'm Sapna Malhotra, your proud Canadian host. The Can Innovate podcast is about providing industry insights from Canadian innovators that are doing it. They are really crushing it out there in the industry. These innovators share insightful thought leadership, tips, tricks, tactics that we can all adopt. Plus, they even share their own entrepreneurial tales of successes and failures, and they really show us what we can learn. So let's continue to innovate our own businesses, lives, and careers. And if you know of any Canadian innovators that should be featured, drop us a line. You know I love getting feedback and hearing from everyone. You can contact me via email, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, hint, hint, even in a review. All right, let's get to this episode. So we are honored today to have both the co-founders of Coral with us today. It's like a 2-for-1 special. We have Sam Kawtharani, who is the CEO and co-founder of Coral. Sam has over 10 years in product development, strategy, marketplace lending experience. He was also previously the head of product at IOU Financial, a startup that went IPO. A leading fintech SMB marketplace lender based out in Montreal that contributed to over $500 million in small business originations. He's also currently a board advisor at Lend Mart and Fundica. Also a member of the product beta community at Founders Beta and holds a master's degree in quality systems engineering from Concordia University. And we also have Derek Manuge, who is also the other co-founder and CIO of Coral, and who has over 5 years experience in financial risk management, compliance, and investment. He was also previously a financial risk manager at KPMG and Scotiabank. He's consulted for 40 plus financial institutions, governments, and regulatory agencies. He's currently a startup advisor at the Blockchain Hub, a member of the Blockchain Risk Research Group at Global Alliance and Risk Professionals, holds an FRM designation and a master's degree in mathematics from University of Guelph. Guys, did I miss anything in your intro?
I think you pretty much covered it all.
Wow, you guys have so many letters and numbers behind all your names. It's amazing. So this is exciting. So you guys are, so Sam, you're from Montreal. And Derek, you're from Toronto. So
we got both cities covered.
Got both cities. Well, I would go amiss if I didn't say go Habs. For listeners out there, that's a Montreal hockey team, and my best friend is a huge Habs fan, and she listens all the time. So I must say that for you. Although everybody,
we're not doing so well this year, though.
I know that's the sad part. We'll start off, weak, and then maybe we'll end up strong. Who knows, right?
There you go, right.
So, Sam, Derek, how interesting. How did you guys both meet?
So I when I started the project in 2017, I was looking for someone to fill the financial risk management and investment side. And I knew a contact in Montreal through National Bank who knew someone. It's one of those stories. I know someone who knows someone. And he connected me with Derek. Derek and I met up April 2017, I think, early 2017, yep. And we just talked about the project and my vision. We saw that there's an alignment in the vision and what we wanted to do from a project point of view, and kept talking for a while. And Derek decided to join the team, and we've been at it since then.
Wow. That's amazing. And being that I've just been chatting with you guys before we start recording this podcast, I can definitely feel the chemistry and the connection between the two of you. You guys have such great banter. It's unbelievable.
He's my work wife at this point.
I'm sure Derek will say the same about you as well.
I don't think so. I don't think you like that comment.
Well, he's silent, so he must be on mute. So what exactly is Coral? What exactly is this venture that you guys are working on?
So Coral, in essence, is revenue sharing on the blockchain. So what we do as a product is we do revenue sharing or royalty investment in emerging technology companies. So that means instead of a company going to raise capital through the traditional sense of equity or loans, or giving up seats on their board or giving up control, we just deploy that capital in that business, and they pay us back with a premium through a percentage of the revenue. So in that case, That investment aligns the interest of the business and the investors. It's founder-friendly, non-dilutive, and allows them to grow on their own terms. And we wanted to kind of merge that fiat world or the traditional sense of the world with the blockchain space. And we launched the Coral token. And the Coral token basically represents an equity stake in our company. So what we did, or in simple terms, Coral went public on the blockchain. So each Coral token represents an actual share in the company, and each token holder receives quarterly dividends from the company's quarterly earnings. And that basically allows investors to or individuals to invest indirectly in emerging technology companies by investing in Coral.
Wow, that sounds pretty impressive. Okay, so break it down. So how does the actual investment work? So we have a lot of listeners out there that are kind of, in the basics of blockchain. So how would this work? So I would go on the stock market and I would find your stock ticker market, and then I can actually buy equity. But how does it work in the background? What exactly services are Coral providing?
So let me just correct something. So we're not like traditional stock market, right? The token is actually our ticker anyway. So if you traditionally down the road, you would go to a security token exchange and buy the token, or a decentralized exchange and buy our Coral token. And that is actually the share, right? So it's not like you're going to your RBC portal to buy a share in Apple or Google. It's not the same. So you go and participate and buy the token, either through the original token sale or down the road through a decentralized exchange or a security token exchange like T0 when it launches a few months from now. The way it works behind the scene is, as investors, you purchase that token or that share, and all that capital we raise through the token sale period gets deployed. The majority of it gets deployed for investments in those emerging companies. So what we do in behind the scenes is, for each business that applies with us, we connect to their bank account systems, their accounting systems, payment gateways like PayPal or Stripe. We gather almost there are 10,000 data elements at this point. It allows us to kind of get a quantitative and qualitative assessment about each business, and that's what tells us basically the go or no go about each investment. There is some manual intervention from our side early on, but we are building machine learning models that would kind of automate the approval process. So with that money that we raised through the token sale, we leverage that technology behind the scene to kind of figure out which investments to make, how we can improve the efficiency of the models and invest in better businesses down the road. And that's what allows us to generate the revenue and share the dividends with the token holders through the smart contracts.
Very, very intriguing. Now, how on earth did you come up with this idea?
Interesting. So I've worked in the lending space for the past 6 years, like with IOU Financial. And I've seen firsthand like how a lot of businesses would apply with us, but they wouldn't fit the profile or the product wouldn't fit them. And that's when I kind of started contemplating a couple of different ideas. And I happened to be working with Kevin O'Leary's team for a while through Shark Tank. And I thought, wouldn't it be a great idea if we put Shark Tank or Dragon's Den online, right? So just put an online version of it. And after multiple product pivots, we started focusing more on the royalty side of things instead of having a fully platform for debt or equity crowdfunding. So we just focus on royalty or revenue sharing as a main concept. And then we started kind of looking into the space even more, and we started noticing that, well, look, this is an old school model that was used in pharmaceutical, oil and gas, and government financing. And what about bringing it to the tech sector? And we noticed that a couple of companies started doing that in the UK and the US, but we wanted to kind of change the status quo, and we added the blockchain concept to it. And that's how Coral was born.
I love it. And what does the name mean, anyways, for Coral?
So the name was inspired by basically the coral reefs. We did a rebranding recently in November or October. And we wanted something that represents not just the product itself, more the vision of the company. From an animal spirituality point of view, the coral reefs or the coral itself represents longevity of projects, prosperous lifestyle, and basically commitment to projects. And that's the kind of vision and idea we wanted to give to our clients, our customers, our investors, that Coral is here to stay. We're helping the community grow. And because of the way coral reefs are connected to each other, kind of that inspired us for the blockchain concept. And then we just dropped the vowel and decided to go with Coral, CORL.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that, especially the prosperity and commitment. Those are great values to have.
Yeah, the name grew on Derek after a while.
He's still silent as a mouse there.
Yeah, I know.
So how did you guys get this idea off the ground?
Well, I mean, originally we started, I started with my own like product research about the industry and what we have to do. We identified a gap in the market, and I think Derek can talk about that in a bit. We identified that gap and like how we can solve that problem. When we settled on the revenue sharing or the royalty concept, we started getting the team together. We wanted to work on the technology sector, the technology side of things first. So we're putting together a team. We started kind of identifying what technology tools we need and what integrations we have to connect to. And that's been the focus for the past year, right? Getting the technology off the ground and building our minimum viable product or MVP. And that's how things started. I mean, we started mainly focusing on the team, getting our credibility out there, our name, our brand, figuring out that this is really what the market needs. And I think after 2,000 early access requests on our mailing list, that vouchers for the product need for what we're doing and kind of assures us that we're on the right track. And I think since then, Derek started also working on the credit side and how we can automate more the approval process. And both Derek and I have been involved a lot on the token side and how we can structure the blockchain concept of the product. So that's how we got here today.
Excellent. So, Derek, what exactly does the customer journey and the whole value proposition look like from your perspective?
Yeah, so as Sam kind of alluded to before, if you think about the technology stack that we're building out, it really automates the operational process of a royalty agreement and funding in general. So if you go out into the market as an early stage company or a founder and you try and get access to capital, there's only a couple of venues for you to tap into. Angel financing, self-funding, venture capital, either equity or debt. Or if you are well collateralized, you might be able to get a loan from a bank. And that would often require you to get a personal guarantee. So if you look at the spectrum of all possible financing arrangements out there, you are somewhat limited as a small company. And if you think about small companies in general, they represent 98% of all businesses in the market. And it's sort of counterintuitive that they have the hardest time getting access to capital. And from that standpoint, it made a lot of sense for us to essentially position the technology platform as a way for startup founders to come apply on our platform as easy as it would be for a credit card application, and then cut down that 3, 6, 9 months funding process into just a few weeks. In addition to that, it's the timeline, the time process it takes to actually get signed up. It can be done in about 10 minutes or so, and we are able to streamline that process by tapping into accounting systems and banking data and credit information, and we mine non-traditional sources of information such as social data, and that's really the value proposition from my standpoint is you have access to all of this information that you can leverage to make a great determination about a company's credit worthiness, their investment potential, and their risk. In a short amount of time that you would not otherwise be able to get access to if you were looking at a company from a qualitative perspective, such as the traditional process that a VC would. So I think that from that standpoint, it's the technology and innovation that we're building around the onboarding process works well for both us in terms of maximizing the profitability and minimizing the risk, as well as the founder that gets access to easy, friendly capital.
No, that's amazing. 10-minute application process? I mean, that's never heard of. I don't even think credit cards are even that easy to make it happen. Is there any prerequisites to apply for this?
Not necessarily. We'll state that we are open to having any company on board onto the platform. However, in terms of the eligibility for funding, we do have some parameters that need to be abided by in terms of the risk profile. And primarily we're focused on post-revenue companies. And that's because we're a royalty company. it doesn't make sense to buy revenue streams of zero because that would be quite risky for us as a company. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that totally makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Yeah, and then in terms of the more solidified parameters that we're looking at, it's anywhere from 25,000 to 250,000 in monthly recurring revenue, and minimum gross margins of about 30%. So if you look at the specific business sector that we're focused on to begin with, it's e-commerce or software as a service or any type of business model that tends to be high growth, high revenue, but low collateral or asset. And that tends to be the emerging technology market sector.
Oh yeah, software as a service would be a perfect place for that. That's beautiful. So what excites you most about this industry? Because it's changing so quickly. Like, literally, I went to my convenience store a couple of days ago, and this is like just a little mama and papa shop, and there was a Bitcoin ATM machine. So things are moving very, very fast in this industry.
Oh, for me, it's definitely the people and the potential of the technology. So if you just look at what the technology represents in many ways, it's decentralized and distributed systems. It does what the internet did for distribution of information, but then it adds the component of being able to prove uniqueness. So in a way, when the internet gave us the ability to exchange information to multiple parties around the world, but what blockchains do is essentially provide us the ability to exchange information that is unique to anyone around the world. So the transfer is now about value versus information. And I think there's just so many use cases you can get out of a blockchain-based or decentralized or distributed ledger technology model. And it could range everything from, community-based attention or decentralized voting or governance models for not only governments themselves, but corporations. And, even the space that we're in, you have so much ability for peer-to-peer funding or lending or loans to exist. We're looking at a model right now worldwide where we take it for granted that we have access to credit and banking, but not so many participants around the world do. You look at in Africa, for example, there's over 1 billion people in the world that are unbanked, that don't have easy access to credit. So under a peer-to-peer type lending model where you can prove out credit worthiness, and you can provide easy transference of payments on a global basis. This type of technology facilitates all that in a trustless manner, which is quite exciting. And then you just think of the applications of this coupled with some more advanced technologies such as biometrics. And then you can also basically port over people's digital identities onto a blockchain, and we can prove individuals based off of, let's say, retina scans or fingerprints. And then you think about the more immersive applications or ramifications of this technology when it comes to sort of a government level, and it could potentially disrupt the way that currencies worldwide or central banks issue currencies. Because under a blockchain-based model for money, what we're able to do is have full auditable transparency on all transactions that ever existed, which means that, as a government that likes to tax its citizens, I can basically at each point of sale or each point of transfer embed within the smart contract or within the blockchain itself an ability to tax at source. So there's no need to essentially report at the end of each year or do quarterly remittances for GST, for example, in Canada. You could literally just take that value right out of the money that you programmed in if you're a government. And then, I think there's some implications as well for cross-border regulation as a result of this global technology, the same way that the internet it's in many ways set standards for global commerce. That is obviously yet to be seen given the infancy of where we're at. But I just think there's so many use cases and so many applications of blockchain, not only from what we're doing at Coral in terms of shifting our equity onto a blockchain for the benefits of it as a security, but it just goes beyond that.
No, it sounds like there's so many possibilities and opportunities. I mean, I didn't even consider the whole thing about the government. I mean, that would just eliminate so much of a headache for them. But I'm sure that government's going to probably be the last to kind of adopt this type of technology.
Yeah, that's probably going to take a while, but I think we're getting there, right? Especially like to Derek's example in Africa, I think blockchain is being adopted faster in Africa than here. I mean, the community and citizens in Africa trust the blockchain network more than the actual banks. People prefer to be paid in crypto than actually having a bank account. I mean, we're seeing it depends. We're seeing that growth in certain countries over others, but we're definitely far ahead in Canada. But I think we're on the right track.
No, it's so exciting. Like I said, when I saw it really literally that ATM that was sitting there, I'm like, wow, this is so much more closer than people actually anticipate. They keep hearing about it in the news, but they haven't seen a lot of it in application. Us regular folks.
It's getting there.
It's getting there. And it's quite a confusing space itself. You've got all those different types of cryptocurrencies that are out there too. I just read an article about crypto kitties, how they're using the blockchain to groom and buy and sell cats. It's amazing. The possibilities are endless beyond belief.
Oh, no. You know that the space is growing and is productive and good when your grandmother asks you to explain what Bitcoin is to her,
I can only imagine the response.
I know. It's like, imagine me trying to explain that to her, right?
So both of you have really fascinating backgrounds. I mean, you've been around and doing so many different things. So has there been some sort of, big aha moment or something that you've learned in this venture or another venture?
I think in a previous venture, yes, I did. It's like mainly from a regulatory point of view. It's like I started with like, we'll just launch and ask for forgiveness later. It kind of bit me in the ass a couple of times. And I was like, with Coral, I learned like, okay, no, we're regulatory compliant. Let's seek code approval before we launch. So that's one. And two is like mostly figuring out that what you're solving is really needed, right? A lot of companies unfortunately come up with a solution, and they try to find the problem for it. And I think that was over the years, maybe early on, kind of was good to come up with ideas, but you're not sure if there's a problem for them. But I think the product manager in me always kind of had that aha moment like a few years ago. I was like, okay, well, now learn to find the real solution for the real problem instead of just like throwing products out there.
I like that. And Derek, did you have anything?
Yeah, I'd say there's probably not a single defining moment that sort of helped me realize that what we're building is important, but it's more sort of an iterative process. And, after my consulting career and looking at the credit risk and investment portfolios of many banks and institutions, and you're looking at sort of the spectrum of products that they offer to businesses and just recognizing that this market is so underserved, it just made a lot of sense for us to move into it, sort of full steam. In Canada alone, there's about $100 billion funding gap. And if you add in the emerging markets around the world, we're looking at $4 to $5 trillion of a funding gap for early stage companies that just isn't being served by mainstream finance. So in terms of the defining moment for me, it's sort of recognizing that and then iterating on the product to make sure that we are able to serve the customers and in other cases, the businesses that need the funding itself. In terms of sort of what I've learned in this venture so far is that you have to be willing to pivot quickly. If you look at the company 6 months ago, even 3 months ago, our vision for the short and medium term was slightly different from where it is today. And what you have to do is just be very responsive to people that are external parties and take advice where you believe that it's valuable.
No, that's
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, and I agree to that point. Like Derek raised a good point that having to pivot, and the startup scene you had, like if you don't pivot, you're gonna die. We like every meeting we have with an advisor or the potential investor, or even just a partner or service provider, like there's always insights or comments that they drop, and that doesn't make we're not confident about our product, but we always think things through, and we always double check. So like a few months ago. In last summer, and we had a couple of ideas from different people, and we took that in consideration, and it helped us pivot the product to an even better position. I mean, you always need to keep an open mind. People criticizing your product or your idea doesn't mean if your product is bad. It's just you have to keep an open mind and be willing to pivot, because guess what? Pivot is what's going to push your product forward and get you that market validation you need.
No, I totally agree. It's funny because the word pivot constantly shows up, and it's amazing how many people don't actually do the early testing to kind of be able to shift and shape and move things along. And it's so true because a lot of other people have said the same thing that, you're getting feedback from different people. You may see it as criticism, but it's actually feedback and engagement that allows you to be able to pivot even more.
Exactly, because you get the opportunity to launch and do a big bang once, right? So I'd rather delay the launch. I know that we're launching a real product that's really needed in the market than launch a product, fails, like, oh, okay, well, let's do this again, right? So, and that's the idea that a lot of people or entrepreneurs have is like, oh, I want to go to market fast. It's like, well, yes, you want to go to market fast, but with the right product.
Yeah. See, we always tend to fall in love with the product and not the actual problem.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the good synergies that Derek and I have. Like, we're both my yes men and we both challenge each other. I mean, since Derek came on board in early 2017, the product has changed so much and we keep pushing ourselves, like, just to keep pushing the product forward at the same time.
Love that. Love that. So can you guys share either like a sales or marketing tip for those that are trying to kind of get things off the ground?
I mean, yeah, a lot of people think that, okay, let's just build the product and then at a later stage start marketing it or doing the sales pitches. And as a matter of fact, you want to do both, right? I mean, you're starting to see a lot of startups basically will start with a landing page where they have an early access list. That's a very good strategy because guess what? You want to build that community around you. You want to build that support, potential customers. Think about every lead or every person who joins your early access list as a potential customer down the road or even a potential salesman for you that's trying to sell your product on the market, right? So don't push those tasks to a later stage where you have a product on the market because guess what? Last thing you're going to do is have a product on the market launched and wait a year to get that traction. In our case, we have 2,000 early access requests from businesses at this point, and we haven't even launched our funding portal yet. But we know that when we launch, we have 2,000 deals in our pipeline that we can look at and vet. Are they all going to qualify for funding? Probably not, but at least we know that we have 2,000 deals from the get-go. Same thing on the investment side. I mean, Coral's Telegram just surpassed EOS's Telegram. So, like, if you look at the Telegram community in the Telegram in the crypto and blockchain space, we're ranking as of today, Derek, third after Polymath and Ripple.
Yeah,
and we're hoping to kind of shift that ranking soon as well.
Oh, I hope you guys make it to number one. I'm going to be your number one fan, that's for sure. So in this journey, was there any kind of tools or resources you're kind of able to leverage, like any of the innovation hubs or governments or any of those pieces, or something that you wish you had? I mean, you guys are very unique in the marketplace.
Oh, yeah. So what a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in Canada, don't know that there's a lot of free money on the table from government grants, right? There's different government grants depending on the startup or the environment you're in or the industry you're in. For example, we benefited from a program called IRAP, right? So it's more like a research and development program, which we qualified for early on. And it will help us basically get our early employees' salary, right? So there's a lot of those grant programs that can help you get started, whether it's even, for example, sponsoring employees' salary if they're out of the country or immigrants, right? So there's a lot of immigration program for helping you hire people. So take advantage of those. Look at those programs. It will help you get there. A lot of startups start from day one. It's like, oh, we need to raise tons of money. Like, well, you don't. There's a lot of resources that will help you get the capital you need to kind of get started until you get on your feet. There's a lot of free tools out there from marketing and sales. If you do your research, there's a lot of startup programs. So every single tool out there that you see that there's a package of $900 a month, guess what? If you contact their help desk or their sales team, there is a startup package that you get at a almost 95% discount because every company was a startup itself at one point and they understand that. I mean, you have to kind of, that's the hustle we talk about in the startup scene or the entrepreneurship world. I mean, you have to push for those resources that you need to kind of build your sales and marketing funnels, your product, your team. Nothing's going to happen on its own. You have to push and find those deals here and there. And I think having that around us definitely helped us push things forward and be where we are today.
Oh, amazing. Love that. So is there any other advice that you provide to our aspiring other budding Canadian innovators out there?
I mean, well, I guess we covered a lot of them from whether it's sales and marketing, benefiting from what's out there in the community. Canada has a lot of events as well from whether startup community-wise. We have a big community, whether Toronto, Waterloo, Montreal, Vancouver. Take advantage of that. Be out there because you never know. You might meet your next co-founder. You might meet your next CTO. I would say take advantage of that. Be involved because you offer the help on your services that you need, and you'll help. Other people will offer you the same services and help that you need. I think that's one of the things I would mention besides what I already covered from marketing, sales, government, and grants.
No, that's awesome because I love that. Get out there, network, meet people, talk to people, learn from each other, help each other, and grow. I love that. So, okay, both of you are really kind of got my curiosity. I mean, you're Montreal Canadian, you are from Toronto, so do you guys have any business philosophies or favorite quotes that kind of help you keep focused? I mean, I don't know how you guys juggle it all.
Yeah, I know, right? We're doing everything at the same time. I mean, specific philosophy quotes. I've always been a fan of Apple and like Steve Jobs' philosophies, like the whole build it, they will come, as long as you know that you know what you're building is the right tool. And a lot of people think that, oh, build it, you will come. It's like, it's just really you build it and you'll find customers. No, that philosophy really comes from a different meaning. It's like you need to really understand what the market is, understand the gap in the market, and then yes, people will come if you build it. So like I'm a big advocate of that philosophy, and I think that's pretty much covers it from my side, like from the work ethic I have. And yeah, one good thing that I always keep in mind is the work-life balance. And a lot of people say, okay, you have to work hard all the time. Yes, you have to work hard all the time, but Derek might disagree on this one. Like you need that work-life balance. He's like, there is no work-life balance.
Work is life.
Work is life. No, I agree. Look, I work we work 60, 70 hours a week, but I personally still find time to balance and keep my sanity. Derek has his own way of doing that.
I'm carrying the team here.
Oh, Derek, you're carrying the team?
Sam meditates in the morning.
Sam, do you meditate in the morning out of curiosity?
Yeah, that's how I handle Derek every day.
That must be a full-time job.
So I'm guessing, Derek, your answer is that you medicate every morning to deal with Sam, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's something I need to take to handle him.
That's founder love, I'm telling you.
You guys have great connection. I love the connection that you guys have, the banter that you have. So is there a popular productivity tool that you guys are using to kind of keep everything kind of moving forward and mitigating all those different risks and all the other fun stuff that you have to think of as, leaders and founders of your own big company?
I mean, from a product side, we use like a tool called Jira, which is like a standard product tool. But personally, for me to manage my day-to-day tasks and keeping track of what needs to be done soon, I used to have notes and like tasks, to-do list apps. But like, the past 6 months, I've been using Slack. It's amazing. I just put reminders for myself in it, and it just sends me messages every morning of what I have to do. It's like I have my personal secretary. I feel so great about it.
And it's another Canadian company. And it's another Canadian company.
Yeah.
I love that. And so do you guys, I guess you guys don't get much time for downtime. So do you have any, books that you recommend or something you're currently reading to take the edge off?
Yeah, so that's the work-life balance I was telling you. So I'm a morning person, right? I wake up at 6 a.m. every morning, and the 6 to 9, that's my life balance, And then after that, I'm on work mode. So like my 6 to 9 is I meditate, I work out, and I read a book every month. So the recent book that I'm reading is, forget the title again, How to Fail in Everything in Life and Still Do It, Make It Good. That doesn't mean we're failing or we're going to fail, but just a good philosophy to read that you're always going to find ways to make it.
To make it all work. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Is there somebody that you're kind of closely following in terms of a company or a CEO that you guys are inspired by?
I mean, personally, recently, part of our partnership with Polymath, I follow up what Polymath are doing. And I've always been a fan of what Wealthsimple has been doing in the Canadian space, in the Canadian fintech space. So I keep a close eye on what's going on. I've joined them early on as a client, and personally, I follow up on that. I mean, and also the traditional fintech and blockchain space of what's going on. I mean, there's different startups to follow on, but on day-to-day basis, I like to stay in touch with Polymath, our partners, because we are we go hand in hand from a product point of view at this point. And just I have my different channels of seeing what's going on in the market.
For myself, it's Elon Musk, probably, if I were to identify one individual. And it's mainly because he's working on problems and solving problems that frustrates him and that no other people would imagine to sort of solve themselves. So the whole long-term thinking, which is so unorthodox in today's capital markets, is really nice to see.
Oh.
Like the boring project and became a company.
That's one way of putting it. So we actually have a lot of international listeners and hopefully visitors, thanks to us having, pot legalized very shortly. It's another reason to visit Canada. Is there a favorite Canadian hotspot, hideaway, city, town, festival that you guys would recommend?
Montreal.
Yeah.
Derek disagrees.
Yeah, definitely Toronto's the place to be.
So this is where you see everyone defends his own city. No, personally, I am from Montreal, but my getaways are definitely not in Montreal. I prefer an area called Eastern Townships. There's a lot of mountains and summits to kind of hike during the day and kind of disconnect from the world. So it's definitely worth checking out if you're coming to the city. I personally believe Montreal has a nice lifestyle. Derek disagrees, but.
So, Derek, do you get to go to Montreal very often?
About once a month, I think it's been since we started. Not as often more recently because Sam and I have been somewhat on the road traveling to blockchain conferences. Wow. However, I will at one point make my way north to that city. It's tough to leave.
One way.
Yeah, it's one way. It's just tough to leave the convenience of Toronto.
It is. It's very hard to. Is there something that you gravitate towards in Toronto? There, like a place that you kind of get to mal out and just chill and be yourself?
Toronto Island, probably. So Ward's Island there, right on the back side, looking south sort of towards the Lake Ontario. You don't really see any civilization, which is nice. For a while, you can kind of forget that you're even in the city.
And for a while, that's 5 minutes for Derek.
Yeah, it's timed.
I guess it's disconnected. It goes back to it. Let's just define what for a while means for Derek.
I love that. It's interesting. Both of you guys are outdoorsy people. You gravitate towards nature.
Yeah, that's for me. I need that. I need that every weekend. Kind of disconnect. I mean, I need at least a few hours every Sunday just to get out there.
Beautiful. And finally, how can our listeners connect with you guys?
Cool. So you can go to our website, coral.io, corl.io. You can join our Telegram group, engage with our community managers or Derek and myself. You can join our social media network, Facebook and Twitter at GetCoral or LinkedIn, or just shoot us an email at hello@coral.io. And you can just reach out to me and Derek on LinkedIn directly.
Excellent. Yep. I will definitely add that all to the show notes, and no one has to look too hard. They can just click, and you'll be there on a next journey.
There you go.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. You guys are just an absolute way too much fun to hang out with. Way too much fun.
Thanks. Thanks for having us.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, innovators, for joining us this week. Our Facebook page is moving and growing each week, so please join us. I post a lot of interesting articles about Canadian innovation trends, the movers, the shakers, plus things that I think are just funny. And if you know any Canadian innovators that should be featured, drop us a line. I love getting feedback and hearing from everyone. You can contact me on email, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, hint, hint, even in the review. I'm still channeling Fury Feed that ratings and reviews are my oxygen. And remember, this is our podcast. I look forward to hearing and chatting with you next week.